Hi pre-K kids. I just wanted to show you some seashells. I think seashells are always pretty cool. These are some seashells that I've collected over all of our travels. Some of them I bought in shops, some of them are really from the ocean directly, but most of them I bought in the shops because the shops collect them and then they polish them up. But this is one that's an unpolished. This is called a conch shell. And people eat the big animal that lives in here, the conch that lives in here. People eat that. And this is the real shell from the ocean. It hasn't been polished by anybody. So you can see the inside is nice and smooth and shiny and pink. It has a particular shape to it. And this side, it's old. You can see the layers of, I don't know, old sea and old shell flaking off. But all shells are made out of calcium carbonate. And depending on the animal, they come in all shapes and sizes because they're actually the house for that particular animal. This is a seashell that I got in Australia. It's called an abalone shell. An abalone lives inside here, and it's a two-part shell. You can see where we had to break the muscle to get the shell to open up right here. And this is straight from the sea. You can see it has some moss and lichens growing on it. But we actually ate the inside of this abalone in Australia when we stayed there. The people we stayed with, the guy went down and dove for the abalones and brought these back up. And what you do is the meat is pretty hard in here, so you pound it with the tenderizer and you tenderize it and barbecue it. So that's how we had abalone. This is a dried sea star. You can see all the little bumps on it. It kind of feels like a skeleton. It's really hard. And underneath you can see all the little suction cup feet that it uses to attach itself to a rock. And remember, that's its little mouth right there where it eats. It'll crawl up on top of something and put it in its mouth and digest it. So that's a real sea star. That's just been dried. It was taken out and dried. This one is kind of cool. It's called a sand dollar. I guess it looks like a silver dollar because it's round. But you can see it has a pretty patterned imprint on it. And it's pretty fragile, although it feels like a skeleton. It's pretty fragile. You can see the hole in the middle, and then it's hollow. So this is the bottom of the sea star. Sometimes you can find these along the beach. A lot of this you'll find in more tropical areas, not necessarily here in Washington. But these are kind of pretty because they're round and they have that design on the outside. This is a polished scallop shell. A scallop is like a clam or a mussel. The scallop is a little round mussel, and again it's a two-part shell. It hooks together here, and the round mussel, or not mussel, scallop is right in the middle. And to get around these scallops, they're called singing scallops. They take their shell and they open and close it and squirt the water out, and that's how they move along in the ocean to get away from predators. But that's a pretty scallop shell. A lot of people eat scallops. These are just shells that I've collected. This is actually a rock with some barnacles on it. And this is just the outside of the barnacles, and what's on the inside is like a sea anemone or those little legs that stick out. So these are open. These are in the open position, but you can see the little sea animal, the barnacle, is gone. But it left its shell behind on this rock. So you can find them on little pebbles on the beach. You can find them on big rocks. You can find barnacles on piers. And the little animal comes in there, and he can open and close the shell like you saw when Melissa was pretending to be a barnacle, feeding and sleeping. So that's kind of a cool little rock. This is a piece of coral. You wouldn't find that necessarily in Washington. This is more in a tropical climate where you can scuba dive. Coral's like a big underground tree, and if you look close you can see all the little holes in this coral. Little tiny sea creatures live in there, and they're the ones who eat like plankton and other microscopic animals in the ocean. They're kind of like barnacles. They come out and eat, and then they leave this little shell or skeleton behind. And all of these are made out of some form of calcium carbonate. So it's kind of cool. They all look different, but they all have the same main chemical structure of calcium carbonate. Let's see. This is kind of a cool little shell. I don't know what it's called. Looks like a spiral shell, but some little animal lived in there. A snail or of some sort, probably. And you can see they're different colors. I just think shells are really cool because they're all so unique. It's like everybody has a house, and their house is all different. The houses are all different depending on how you paint them. Some are big, some are small. This one's kind of cool. So again, the animals live on the inside there. I don't know. I have a whole bunch of shells. You can just look in here and see all the different kinds. But I've collected shells, Bert's collected shells, Melissa has collected shells, and so this is about 60 years worth of shell collecting that we have at our house. So it's just kind of fun. I wanted to show them to you. Since you can't see these shells, oftentimes in Washington you have to travel on a vacation. You can find different kinds of shells, and they're all made out of calcium carbonate. And I went to a training session on global warming. I know this is above where you guys are at, but when you get to middle school, you'll learn about global warming. And global warming means there's a lot of extra CO2, carbon dioxide. Remember, we made carbon dioxide molecules. We also made carbon dioxide when we poured vinegar and baking soda together. It made that gas. Well, this gas gets absorbed into the water in the ocean, and it's disrupting the balance of these shells. There's too much CO2 in the ocean, and it's causing these guys to not be able to form their shells very well. So I don't know if we have a lot of more global warming in the future. It comes from driving your cars mainly, making CO2 emissions, carbon dioxide emissions. That carbon dioxide gas gets absorbed into the water in the oceans, and it's changing the chemical balance in the ocean, and it's making it harder and harder for our sea animals to make their shells so that they can live. But that's all I'm going to say about that right now. But there's a whole bunch of chemistry and science behind that, which is kind of cool. But you'll probably learn that in middle school. So that's all for now. Oh, wait. If that's not all for now. If we were in class, I have a seashell project for you. I don't know if you have any shells at home, but what we were going to do in class is we were going to take 4 popsicle sticks, glue them together to make a square. So you just glue the four ends of the popsicle sticks. You let it sit overnight. And then we were going to make shell picture frames. And then we were going to glue little seashells to the outside of the frames. So if you have any seashells at home, you might want to do this project as a little craft. And then you can put a picture in it. Maybe a picture of you doing the crab walk. Maybe a picture of you doing our barnacle, being a barnacle. And you can put your picture inside the seashell frame. But it's kind of fun to decorate a picture frame and then decide what kind of picture you want to put in it. So that's a little art craft that you can do if you have some seashells at home. Or you can order some on Amazon and make your seashell frame. Okay, that's all for now. Pre-K kids, stay tuned. I'm going to read an old lady book about seashells. Bye for now.